Well, folks, if you haven't been watching the corporate media for the last month, let me fill you in on what you've missed. That lost Malaysian airliner still lost, Avril Lavigne still irrelevant, and her new video sucks. And yes, Cliven Bundy, a rancher from Nevada who lives out in the middle of nowhere and has probably never seen a black person, is ignorant. But that didn't stop the race-baiting mainstream media from turning the entire Bundy Ranch situation into a left versus right sideshow.
Breaking tonight, we just received video from a press conference on a new firestorm involving Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy.
Why did they show up with all those agents? Why did they show up with all those firearms and so much firepower? Well, maybe they knew a little bit more about this guy than Sean Hannity.
Mr. Bundy, I see in your arms that you are holding a dead calf. What happened?
I want to talk to you about being prejudiced a little bit. And you haven't asked me that question this morning.
Well, it's because you held up a dead calf. You wonder if Negroes weren't better off as slaves. Now, are you a racist?
Yes, the corporate media spent the better part of last week latching on to Cliven Bundy's ignorant remarks, leaping on the opportunity to make fun of Fox News and anyone who had criticized the Bureau of Land Management as being racist by proxy. And of course, what this did was little more than highlight the media's own bias when it comes to what's truly worth covering. So what did we all miss? Well, the focus was on Bundy's views about welfare. For starters, 55 people were assassinated by drone in Yemen over Easter weekend. But don't worry, according to officials, they were all terrorists and didn't deserve a right to defend themselves. Nothing to see here. And then there's the horrifying tragedy that just took place in Nigeria, where 230 young schoolgirls were loaded into vehicles at gunpoint by al-Qaeda-linked militant group Boko Haram in the middle of the night. This isn't the first time the group has targeted Nigeria's youth. According to Human Rights Watch, Boko Haram routinely attacks schools and actively recruits children. And this particular group has a disturbing history of abducting young girls and women to be kept as wives and servants for its members. So, in the wake of the brutal terrorist attacks that took place in the country earlier this month, killing at least 75 people, and now this latest act of violence against helpless schoolgirls, one might wonder why Nigeria is missing on the MSM. But it's not just countries in Africa that are being ignored. Meanwhile, back in the States, the Federal Communications Commission officially killed net neutrality, finally making it easier for corporations to control what you have access to on the internet. That's right, the FCC announced new regulations last week implementing a pay-to-play, two-tiered internet, which allows giant companies to make deals with ISPs so that their content is streamed faster. According to the Huffington Post, the laws, quote, create two lanes on the internet, fast super highways that big tech companies can afford, and a bumpy back road where less fortunate websites dwell. And what a shock. The corporate-controlled media, owned by just a few massive corporations that have cut deals with cable providers, doesn't seem to think the internet monopolies and the death of the neutral internet is worth covering. I wonder why. Because really, in the grand scheme of things, it's easier to talk about conspiracy theories regarding a missing airliner than to talk about the actual corporate conspiracy that has taken away our internet freedom. And to that end, what's more racist? Cliven Bundy's remarks or the massacre of 55 Yemenis with zero trial and no due process just because they might be brown and of military age? You tell me.